For 29 agonizing years, they buried a 400-pound titan alive in a concrete tomb until his mind cannibalized itself. They called him a savage monster. But when one unarmed woman stepped into his cage, the terrifying giant did the unthinkable. The leaked security footage will completely shatter you. Imagine, for just a fraction of a second, breathing the exact same recycled, bleach-scented air for 10,585 days. No sunlight warming your skin. No wind rustling past you. No reassuring voices. Absolutely no physical touch. And zero connection to the outside world. Just pure, suffocating, unadulterated solitary confinement. What actually happens to a living, breathing soul? A highly intelligent, deeply feeling biological asset. When you lock it inside a sterile concrete vault for almost 3 decades and completely abandon it. The corporate management types will tell you that the subject simply powers down, quietly waiting in the dark to be recycled by the system. But they are dead wrong. A broken soul in the dark does not just fade away. It builds the most impenetrable, terrifying psychological firewall known to nature. Today, we are cracking open the locked files on a profound tragedy that the establishment desperately tried to bury under layers of red tape. We are looking at the haunting reality of a magnificent, 400-pound silverback who was condemned to the abyss of isolation for 29 agonizing years, and the absolute mad-lad female researcher who walked straight into that nightmare, deliberately broke every single safety protocol in the corporate manual, and completely wrecked the facility's twisted narrative forever. At Vongingayanchan03 warmly welcomes you to a journey that will permanently alter the way you look at isolation, resilience, and the raw power of unspoken connection. This is not just a clinical audit. This is a visceral, bleeding testament to the survival of a shattered spirit. If you are ready to uncover the horrific truths they tried to hide behind the steel doors of Enclosure 9, I need you to hit that subscribe button and like this video right now. Your support is the absolute lifeblood of this channel, giving us the leverage and the drive to keep investigating these profound, hidden histories and bringing these incredible stories out of the dark. Let us pull the historical data and step into the year 2017. Enter Dr. Kate Brennan. She was not one of those spineless, clipboard-carrying bureaucrats who comfortably ran their mouths about animal psychology from behind a desk. She was a fearless fixer. She looked directly at the catastrophic operational failure unfolding in that prison, and while everyone else saw a terrifying monster, she prepared for the ultimate hostile takeover. To understand the sheer magnitude of what Dr. Brennan was about to undertake, we must first descend into the suffocating gloom of Enclosure 9 and confront the broken titan imprisoned within it. When Kate first stood outside that blast-proof door, the air was thick with the stench of decay, fear, and industrial-grade sanitizer. The subject, a majestic, 400-pound male silverback, had been reduced to a phantom. For 29 years, the facility administrators had treated him not as a creature of immense cognitive depth, but as a hazardous inventory item. They had stripped him of a name, referring to him only by a clinical alphanumeric sequence stamped on his feeding chute. Kate observed him through the scratched, smudged observation glass, and what she saw would have broken the resolve of any ordinary person. He sat huddled in the furthest, darkest corner of his concrete tomb, facing the wall, his massive silver-lined back rising and falling with shallow, defeated breaths. He had ripped the hair from his own forearms in agonizing bouts of sensory deprivation, a tragic testament to a mind turning inward to cannibalize itself just to feel something real. Whenever a maintenance worker accidentally clattered a bucket in the hallway, the giant would explode into terrifying, violent spasms, hurling his colossal frame against the reinforced acrylic, baring his fangs in a desperate, blind rage before collapsing back into his catatonic state. The resident behaviorist smugly documented these outbursts as proof of his inherent savagery, completely blind to the agonizing irony. They had engineered a monster through unimaginable neglect and then condemned the beast for bleeding in front of him. The psychological wreckage was absolute. His eyes, once harboring the brilliant, inquisitive spark native to his species, were completely hollowed out, dark voids reflecting nothing but the sterile fluorescent lights above. He was trapped in a perpetual loop of trauma, waiting for an end that refused to come. Yet, where the rest of the scientific community saw an irredeemable liability meant to be monitored through a 6-inch pane of reinforced acrylic, Kate saw a desperate plea for a living, breathing witness. She knew instantly that the corporate playbook was entirely useless here. Treating a shattered consciousness with clinical detachment was precisely what had dug this grave in the first place. So, she did the unthinkable. On her third day, Kate marched past the horrified facility director, disabled the automated security locks, and stepped entirely beyond the designated safe zone. The manual explicitly dictated that no staff member should ever establish direct line of sight with a highly volatile subject without the presence of armed security. Kate banished the guards. She refused the protective bike gear. She walked into the anteroom, carrying nothing but a devastatingly quiet confidence. Instead of standing over him to project dominance, the standard, archaic method of asserting control, she lowered herself onto the freezing, damp concrete floor. She turned her back slightly, a universal primate gesture of submissive trust, and she simply breathed with him. The sheer audacity of her presence sent shockwaves through the facility. Alarms were almost pulled. Executives threatened immediate termination. Inside the enclosure, the silverback reacted with terrifying unpredictability. He charged the inner mesh gate, pounding his massive fists against the steel with enough force to rattle Kate's teeth in her skull. The noise was deafening, a primal scream forged by 29 years of solitary hell. But Kate did not flinch. She did not retreat to the safety of the observation deck. She held her ground, whispering in soft, rhythmic tones, radiating an absolute refusal to abandon him. For weeks, she endured these mock charges. She dismantled the sterile feeding mechanisms, opting instead to slide high-value foods, fresh figs, crisp greens, directly through the lower slot with her own bare hands. She was deliberately tearing down the institutional firewall, forcing the administration to watch as she replaced their mechanical cruelty with raw, unshielded human empathy. That unrelenting, reckless vulnerability paved the way for a moment so profoundly shattering that it practically vaporized the decades of concrete conditioning in a single breath. It happened on a Tuesday, during the agonizing quiet of the facility's graveyard shift, when the sterile hum of the ventilation system was the only sound in the room. Kate was sitting in her usual spot against the mesh divide, her eyes cast downward, humming a low, steady melody. The silverback, who had spent the last hour pacing with agitated, heavy steps, suddenly stopped.
Somebody help me.
The silence that followed was so thick it felt heavy in the lungs. Slowly, with a deliberate caution that belied his immense, destructive power, he closed the distance between them. Kate could feel the heat radiating from his massive frame, could smell the raw, earthy scent of a creature that had been denied the rain and the soil for practically his entire life. He did not posture. He did not pound his chest. Instead, he reached out a single, leathered finger, heavily scarred from decades of self-harm, and pressed it deliberately against the steel mesh separating them. Kate stopped humming. She raised her head, and for the first time in 29 years, the silverback held a human gaze without a trace of hostility. His dark eyes, previously described by the bureaucrats as dead and vacant, were swimming with a piercing, overwhelming intelligence. They were oceans of unspeakable sorrow, but beneath the grief, there was an unmistakable, fragile curiosity. Trembling slightly, Kate lifted her own hand and pressed her fingers against the opposite side of the mesh, mirroring his exact position. The moment their warmth met through the freezing steel, a physical shudder ran through the giant's body. He let out a low, rumbling vocalization, a sound not of aggression, but of profound, aching relief. He was not a monster. He was a prisoner who had finally been seen. In that infinitesimal span of shared silence, the monster they had engineered ceased to exist, replaced entirely by a sentient being reclaiming his stolen dignity. The footage of that interaction, captured on the facility's grainy security cameras, became the undeniable catalyst for a total operational reckoning. The corporate management could no longer hide behind their sanitized reports of biological assets powering down. Kate Brennan had forced them to look into the eyes of a deeply feeling soul that had survived the darkest abyss of human cruelty. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Under intense pressure and the undeniable proof of the silverback's cognitive resurgence, the facility was forced to initiate a massive rehabilitation protocol. The heavy steel doors of Enclosure 9 were permanently welded open to an expansive, sunlit sanctuary, allowing the wind to finally rush past him and the real earth to hold his weight. While he would carry the deep psychological scars of his 29-year nightmare until the end of his days, he spent his remaining years bathed in natural light, eventually learning to interact cautiously with other rescued primates. But the true legacy of this story extends far beyond the physical dismantling of a concrete vault. It serves as a devastating mirror held up to our own humanity. We live in a world obsessed with building walls, with isolating what we do not understand, and with categorizing complex lives into convenient, manageable data points. Kate Brennan proved that no soul is too far gone, no mind too shattered, that it cannot be reached by the relentless, fearless application of pure empathy. She walked into a graveyard and pulled a king back into the light. The story of Enclosure 9 is a visceral reminder that connection is not just a luxury. It is the fundamental biological imperative of survival. When you strip everything else away, it is the only force powerful enough to shatter the darkest concrete tombs we build. The story of Dr. Kate Brennan and the majestic silverback of Enclosure 9 is not merely a tale of animal rescue. It is a profound testament to the life-saving power of radical empathy. For nearly 3 decades, institutional neglect and cold, clinical detachment reduced a highly intelligent, deeply sensitive creature into a broken, terrified shadow. The facility administrators inadvertently built a monster out of their own fear and apathy, proving that when we isolate what we do not understand, we ultimately destroy it. Yet, Kate's unwavering courage shattered 29 years of concrete conditioning. By discarding the rigid rules of dominance and stepping directly into the gorilla's trauma with quiet vulnerability, she bridged an impossible divide. That single, breathless moment where their hands met through the freezing steel mesh proved that beneath the most violent, defensive exteriors lies a desperate yearning to simply be seen and understood. Her defiance forced a total systematic overhaul, bringing sunshine, earth, and dignity back to a king who had effectively been buried alive. Ultimately, this narrative dismantles the false necessity of our physical and emotional walls. It reveals that pure, unshielded connection is the ultimate antidote to despair. Kate didn't just save a single life. She demonstrated that no soul is ever too fractured to be reached by genuine compassion. When we dare to look past the scars, the rage, and the barriers, we possess the incredible power to pull each other back into the light. The deepest wounds of isolation and trauma cannot be healed by control, dominance, or judgment, but only through fearless, vulnerable empathy. True connection requires us to step out of our safe zones and meet others in their darkest moments, proving that no one is completely beyond saving when they are genuinely seen and treated with dignity. Look beyond the armor. When someone in your life acts out with defensiveness, anger, or withdrawal, recognize that this behavior is often a desperate shield for deep pain. Instead of matching their hostility or walking away, approach them with patience. Practice active presence. You do not always need to have the right words or a solution to fix someone's problem. Often, simply sitting with someone in their struggle, showing up consistently, and holding space without judgment is the most powerful healing tool you can offer. Dismantle your own walls. We frequently build emotional barriers to protect ourselves from being hurt. Challenge yourself to safely lower these defenses. Reach out to a disconnected friend or family member. Listen to them to understand rather than to reply, and replace your fear of vulnerability with courage. Have you ever experienced a time when a simple act of empathy completely changed a difficult situation or relationship in your life? Please share your thoughts and stories in the comments section below so we can all read your perspectives and learn from one another. If you found this story inspiring, please subscribe to the channel. Your support truly gives us the motivation to keep creating more meaningful, high-quality content for you.